So you know that moment when your child says, I get it, but then completely blanks out on the next question? Yeah, well, that happens a lot more than you think. If you ever sat down with your child helping them with homework, you probably had this moment constantly. You've explained the concept, they nod, they say, I get it. And then you feel relieved, say, okay, let's try the next question. Then suddenly they get stuck and you just feel confused. You start wondering, were they just pretending they were listening? But this is what's actually happening. And I see it time and time again in tutoring. Your child isn't lying when they say they understand it. Well, the truth is that they thought they understood it because in that moment it made sense. But when they're asked to reapply it again on their own, they didn't have a deep enough grasp to actually work through something slightly different. I had a student once, he was quite diligent. She was very well organized, always did her working out. So on the surface, it looked like she was doing everything correct. But I started to notice a pattern. She'd get a question right with help, but struggled as soon as I changed the question or I kind of reworded a bit differently. That's when it hit me. She was rote learning. So basically repeating patterns and steps without understanding why it really worked. Now, rote learning isn't inherently bad, but it gets you sort of partway there. But in maths, especially once things get a bit more complicated, a repetition only works to a certain stage. Eventually, they will test your real understanding of it because the success in maths isn't about memorizing formulas. It's about understanding them. And, what does this formula actually mean or represent? Now, how does it work in this context? Which context does it not work for? And what do I use it for? This is where the gap usually shows up in the exams. Questions are rarely copy and paste versions of what you've seen before because they're designed to test the reasoning. And if a student's only strategy is to swap numbers and memorize steps, they're on shaky ground. So what can we do instead? If you're a parent, one of the best things to do is to slow down the pace that you're teaching. It's not about rushing through the chapters and trying to finish it. It's about explaining the concept. Get your child to sort of explain it again in their own words. If the question looks slightly different, how could you approach it? The goal isn't speed, it's understanding. Once that's there, the practice then turns into power. Then that builds independence, confidence, and ability to just problem solve without having to follow instructions or constantly get help. Because when a child truly understands why, not how, they won't just pass the test. They start to actually enjoy learning, and that's when when everything changes.